So in the last tutorial, we talked a lot about routes, and we went a little bit more in depth on how routes work and how to clean routes up and how to make everything a little more dry. So in this tutorial, we're going to talk about controllers a little more. So let's clean this up here, and let's just say return hello world. So you'll see that controllers are really just simple classes. Simple meaning that they don't inherit from anything and they don't do any crazy logic. At least for version 2.0. Version 2.1 and 2.2, that might change. But you'll see that we have a dependency that is resolving from the container here. So there's actually two ways to actually resolve dependencies from the container. So if we actually just see what the container is, it might be a little bit easier to understand. So if we run our craft command again, you'll see we have this tinker command. So if we go ahead and we run craft tinker, it'll open up a new shell, but it'll have this app, which is the container. So if we say app.providers, app.providers is just a dictionary. If we scroll up, you see it starts here. It starts with a curly brace, which means dictionary, and it has pretty much all the framework classes inside it. So we might have so we have a couple things here. So we have an app.bind, an app.make, and an app.collect, and we have a few methods here. And let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay. So we can do an app.make request. All right. So what this does is this is the key in this dictionary. So if we scroll, so you see here we have a key and we have a value. So somewhere in this list here is a request key. All right. So we might do app.make request, and it returns us the request object. So that's what this is really doing here. So if we just say request, on the back end, it's saying, okay, you need a request. So let me fetch that from the container and I'll inject it for you. All right. So if we say request.input, this will actually be the request object. Now going back to our tinker, we could say app.bind, right? And we could say request, and we could say object. So now we're binding the request key to this object, which will now overwrite it. So if we say that, now we could say app.make request, and now we have a class of object. That's the entirety of the service container. All the service container is you're binding things into the container when the server starts, and throughout the lifecycle, you're making various making various objects from the container. All right, so we might do app.make view, right? We did that earlier, which is bound to the view.render method. So we could say view here, and then we could return view. And this is the welcome. All right, this would be your template, and blah, blah, blah. All right, we can do that. So let's clean that up. And let's go back to our tinker command. So you could also do things like maybe app.collect, and we could search for anything that starts with a request. And we get this request class and the object that we just bound to. We do the same thing with maybe view. Okay, so we have a couple things for view. So we have a view class inside here, and a view, right? This is the actual class itself, and this is the view, which was that render method. Or sorry, right here, view.render. And we have other things in here, so we could do app.collect, maybe right, upload star driver. There's a couple things in here. So we're gonna have upload disk driver and a upload S3 driver. So that's the entirety of it. So if we go back here, you'll see that we had a view, which is basically fetching by, we already did this, which is calling this in the back end. So if we do something like this, though, if we do something like from Masonite.view import view, and then calling this, right? So this is actually the view class, and this is what we're going to be using down here. So we'd be using this and not this. So what these are called Python annotations. What this is doing is it's fetching by value when this was fetching by key. So this is telling Mason, okay, fetch me the provider that has the key of view, all right? That has the key of view. And what this is doing is fetch me the view class from the container. So this is basically fetching by value. And that's really it. That's the, like, you are now a service container dependency injection expert. And Masonite does this automatically for you, which is why Masonite is so powerful. And once you start testing your code, you could see why this right here is so powerful. When conventionally you might have something like here and you're importing the class, and then down here you're saying view dot, render or something here. Also, the reason why it's so powerful is you could add service providers which can swap out this functionality, add functionality to it. So you might want to add a service provider which makes this automatically cache all your templates, right? You might bring in a package that does that, and you don't have to change any of your code. It just knows how to add methods onto this view class. So now that we actually talked a lot about views, let's go ahead and know how to make a view. So let's go ahead and get out of this. And if we go back to our craft command, you'll see we have a craft view. So views are located, we could back out of this a little bit. So views are located in our resources/templates, and this is where all our templates are. So right here we had this welcome template, which showed our welcome screen. All right, so here's the application name. This is why we passed in application. And this is the slogan, essentially, that Masonite has. So if we want to create new templates, we can go ahead and say craft view, let's say hello, and it'll create this hello template for us. All right, so we could say hello world from template, and go back to our hello world, and we could say view.render hello, right? So this is a template name. And we could say hello world from template. If you want to go a little bit deeper, right? So we may have a, I don't know, like a show directory here. We actually need this, it probably won't be show, it'll probably be, say, users. We could say users /, which now shows there. And what's interesting here is that when we open this hello template, we don't have to refresh the server. So notice the server didn't refresh, but we have changes here. So if you have any issues or something, this should not be refreshing or refreshing the server. If you have any further questions, you can consult the documentation or join the Slack channel, which is slack.masoniteproject.com. That's it for this tutorial. I'll see you next tutorial.